I'm just realizing right now in this moment, I think I just figured out the Black Swan or one of them. And I don't think that we're talking about it enough.
She was a huge 2008 REO foreclosure agent. She's now retiring. And she said the emails that I'm still getting and involved in, and she's like, if there's any indicator of what's coming, she said December and January, has seen the highest number of bank BPOs, which is broker price opinions. And she said she hasn't seen these types of numbers since the 2008 crash.
The human being in me that you guys have known for decades and love wants everyone to succeed. And I really, truly do. The competitor in me wants everyone else to get up every day thinking that this is too hard. That is just the God's honest truth. If there is a limited amount of market share available, I want everybody else to think that this is going to be too hard so that I have more market share available to me.
DFW, turn it up. This week in DFW Real Estate. The weekly podcast built for agents who actually get paid. Market moves, listing heat, closing streets. DFW agents. Let's eat.
All right, welcome back. Episode 3. We're already 3 episodes in.
That's 3 more than most people do.
That's what I've heard.
What is it, Jesse? 11?
I think it's 7.
7. 7 is where most people stop, so we're almost halfway there.
Yeah. So 3 episodes in, Brian has a special guest with us today.
I was not planning on having the special guest on camera, but you do what you got to do, I'm learning.
Yes. Dad life. Dad life. This also gives you brownie points everyone sees. So good job. It's now being recorded.
Mom made sure that she had a nice outfit on today, doing the thing that dads do where they hide the face behind the microphone. She just looks like a baby right now, so it really doesn't bother me that much. But I'm definitely going to be one of those people that blurs my kid's face out on social media.
As you should.
I think so.
Yeah. But look, here's what we're going to talk about today. It is something that we posted in our Realtor group. So that if you're not part of our Realtor Facebook group, it's DFW Realtors. Just search for it. We have a website being created, so we'll have that promoted here shortly. And by the time you're listening to this, we would have just hosted our second Realtor Meetup. We already have, as of today, we're recording this, we already have over 60 RSVPs. So make sure to check to be in our group. Look for the invite on that. It's the last Thursday every single month at Mexican Bar Company. So we'll want to see you at the next one. And then go support our sponsors. We have amazing sponsors of this podcast. Look, as a real estate agent right now, you're probably talking to homeowners, or you're probably seeing a lot of people that are unable to sell. And they need to do something with their property, and they're talking about leasing it out. Get it over to Homeward Property Management. Dana and Duncan do an amazing job of helping represent your clients and getting the best tenants in there and managing it like it was their own personal property. Yeah. So just go to homewarddfw.com and tell them that the guys over from the podcast sent you to them. And then, of course, we've got ProCare Home Solutions. If you roofing, window, siding, HVAC, plumbing, you name it, they just did some work on 2 of my rental properties. They do an amazing job contracting, hand-in manning, complete full remodels. Just go to ProCareDFW.com, ProCareDFW.com. And then look, you need to you got to have a podcast.
We've probably done 400 total episodes of different podcasts from these seats right here at Tour Studios.
Yes. Tour Studios. Go to tourstudios.com. Jesse Showalter will make you look amazing, sound amazing. He's even talking about maybe launching a AI version of yourself that could be, it looks like you, it sounds like you, and it's out there every single day, doesn't call in sick, doesn't get scared, doesn't get, fear rejection. So get with Jesse at tourstudios.com. He'll look, he's going to make you famous. Promise you that.
He's made us famous.
Famous enough.
Famous enough.
Famous
exactly.
with all these people in this room.
Exactly. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. Infamous. Famous. 2 of the same things. But something I wanted to talk about on today's show, and honestly, if you kind of talk with a small segment of the real estate population, they're going to say this is not a problem, right? Because the alarm bells haven't gone off yet because they're not paying attention.
They're not paying attention, and I have found in our industry, which I love with all my heart, agents are oftentimes the worst to listen to about what is happening happening on the economic side of the market because we want to be, we never want to act like anything is afoot.
Well, I think it's more burying their head in the sand,
Right?
Because they don't want to. It could impact their sales, right? It's not the best news out there. And what we're talking about, and the reason why we're bringing this up is I'd made a post. I have a listing that is helping a client short sale their house.
Yeah.
And so I made a post in our DFW Realtors group. So just go join that, please. And not thinking it was going to get that much traction.
2 years ago, it wouldn't have gotten any traction.
No, they would have, if I would have asked, hey, are you working short sales? Are you talking with more homeowners that are behind on their payments, or fearing that they're going to start falling behind, or they can't afford the house anymore? People would just be like, no, that's not happening. There's too much equity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, too much equity, and which is what we did here for the last few years. Is like, we're not going to see this foreclosure boom. We're not going to see this high delinquency because we've got too much equity in our houses.
Right.
Which is at the time is true.
At the time. True.
But just like you and I both know this, Brian, from the investor world, equity is not realized money.
Right.
It's not realized returns.
Equity is a potential return if I were to capture this equity at this particular moment in time and this asset were to trade at the price that I think it would.
Yes. And so when I ask this question, one, are you as the real estate agent community starting to talk with more homeowners who are behind, who are, or maybe already facing foreclosure and looking at doing a short sale? Would you guys be interested in joining a class that we put together? It went gangbusters. Over 66,000 views on that, like tons of shares, almost over 200 comments about, yes, I would be interested. I'm talking to a homeowner right now. I'm going through a short sale right now. And I will go out on a pretty far limb to say that the majority of agents that are commenting or hearing this and listening to this is that they've never, one, represented a client going through a short sale, and two, they've not been on the other side as the buyer's agent representing a buyer who's purchasing or made an offer on a short sale.
Yeah, exactly. And they both come with their own nuances that you have to really be educated on as an agent to make those deals successful. What I find really interesting is the anecdotal way this is showing up in the real world and what the statistics look like. Because if you just look at the statistics, our national mortgage delinquency rate is 4.26% right now. So in a vacuum, I won't say whether that's good or bad, whatever you think about, whether that's a large number or whatever is irrelevant. It's up from 3.98 2 years ago and 3.99 in 2025 a year ago. So it's up about, what is that, 10% or so? Not even quite 10%. But that's a substantial increase in a short period of time. 4.26% might not seem like a lot, but I'm telling you right now, in my coaching conversations with agents, in agents that are seeking guidance, even from our group, and just anecdotally in the real world, short sales are starting to pop up a lot more in the real world. Regardless of how insignificant that change in the statistics seems, it's a trend that's starting to pop up.
And here's the problem that I have, and we do kind of dismiss this, and I think society dismisses things, and when we start to say these are single-digit increases, so it's still under 5%, I'm like,
right.
Well, that's not terrible. But when we start to really then go deeper into the stats, since Q2 of 2021, we've now had the highest FHA delinquency rate. We're seeing 11.52% of FHA loans are now in delinquency status. And those are, when we look at FHA, typically, we see those are going to be more in maybe a first-time home buyer or a lower down payment, right? That's a 3.5% down payment. So we're seeing that that segment of buyers and that segment of the population will have less equity in their house. And some of the things that we also have to counteract with is that we're fighting. Right, we're fighting a higher cost of living.
Fighting a higher cost of living. What we're not taking into account here, Jesse, I know that you have like the back of the napkin statistics on these, but car repossessions, credit card debt are both at all-time highs right now, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
And not even on a total basis. I mean per capita. I mean like the amount of outstanding loans or outstanding credit card debt, the percentage of it that is behind is at an all-time high on a per capita basis, right? The amount of outstanding auto loans that are behind or delinquent is on a per capita basis is at an all-time high. it's way more than just mortgage that weighs people down. It is student loan debt, auto payments, credit card payments, 60-day delinquencies for fund-prime borrowers. Okay, so yeah, is this for car loans? Auto loan delinquencies are at a record highs, with over 5% of Americans with car loans currently behind on payments. As of 2025, 60-plus day delinquencies for subprime borrowers, this is important, hit a record of 6.9%, surpassing the 2008 crisis levels. These are what we call leading indicators. When I start to get behind, my mortgage is normally not the first thing that I'm going to get behind on. It's normally I'm going to get behind on my credit card payments. I'm going to get behind on my car payments before I get behind on my mortgage. Even though my mortgage is normally a higher payment, I tend to take that way more seriously because it's a much bigger hit to my lendability and my credit to get behind on my mortgage. So when we start to see car delinquencies at an all-time high, and now we start to see FHA, I mean, that is a shocking number, 11.25%. Is that what you said? Yep. And now we start to see a 10 or so % increase in mortgage delinquency year over year. These start to tell a story of where things may be headed.
Well, again, let's go back and just break the stats down, and let's not dismiss it. Let's open our minds up to, all right, these stats right now. What does this mean over the next 90 to the next 180 to the next 365 days?
Right.
Because ultimately, you might be feeling that spring season pickup, right? You might be feeling like, oh man, business is starting to look good. But you've got to also forecast, is there a storm on the horizon? And not to be doom and gloom. This is not a doom and gloom. You just like in episode 2, we talked about, you can have your best year ever. But at the same time, our job is to solve problems that are happening in the marketplace. Exactly. So if we go back and look at, all right, bigger picture, because consumer-driven debt and higher cost of living and higher interest rates all leads to maybe less buyer demand. It may lead to homes sitting on the market longer and having to do more price reduction. So when we look at right now, auto delinquencies as a whole are running 46 above long-term norms of delinquencies.
46% above
46%, yeah. So long-term norms are basically the long-term average on auto delinquencies is 3.57%. Okay. We're 46 above that long-term norm.
Yeah.
And so, typically what we found in the past is, again, people will let their credit card bills go before their auto loans, right? And then that trickles down. And then people are going to let their auto loans go bad before they let their house mortgage, fall behind. We see that in rents, and we see that in increasing delinquency in rents, and evictions are starting to increase. And so what I'm hearing, and the reason why everybody, and I urge you to come to our meetup, go to networking events and just get out there and just start talking to agents. Not because they're your competitors, because you're gonna get real consumer feedback of what's going on. Is that as we're starting here, I know several of my agents have talked to more people that are actually going through bankruptcy right now that are trying to lease a home.
Yeah.
So if you're representing renters right now, which we're seeing a lot of agents working that rental market at a higher level because maybe their sales business and transactional volume's down a little bit. So it's like, hey, let's get some leases going. You need to understand what you're working with on that angle. And so, really the opportunity is of coming with empathy.
Sure.
And understanding when you're talking to a homeowner, and that you can help them. Because the short sale that I'm working right now, it was sent to me by an agent who her broker told her just to drop the listing and just let it go. Mm-hmm. And then these clients of mine they're jumping through hoops to give me every paperwork so that we can process what we need to do in order to try to get this short sale approved. And because most people don't want to have a foreclosure on their record, they want to do and they want to do right. That was their obligation. They want to see it through, but they can't pay off the remaining balance. And so the goal is to get the bank to agree to sell it short of what is owed.
Yeah. And so another listing agent just was like, not my target client, and just let the listing go.
She again, I would say 90+% of agents have never worked a short sale, never been involved in a short sale. And anybody that's been in it since 2018, 2019 has never run across many short sales at all.
Yeah, it doesn't even know the process.
No, and the process is a lot. It's not a short It is a very time consuming. It's very, there's timeline driven. There's needing to understand if the type of loans that the homeowner had. If it's a government backed loan, you have to follow certain protocols in order to find the right net that the bank will be allowed, because they're under regulations. If it's a conventional loan, it's a little bit more open in how to get a BPO, which is a broker price opinion, which, by the way, this is not an official stat, but I was chatting with an agent who was showing one of our listings earlier this week, and she was a huge 2008 REO foreclosure agent. She's now retiring. And she said the emails that I'm still getting and involved in, and she's like, if there's any indicator of what's coming, she said December and January, has seen the highest number of bank BPOs, which is broker price opinions, which that is an indicator that that the bank is ordering to get an estimated valuation on a house, and typically that means that homeowner, that borrower, is now in delinquency status, and the bank is trying to figure out what is the real value of the house currently in present condition. Yeah. And she's saying she hasn't seen these types of numbers since the 2008 crash.
So I want to make this actionable for agents. That's what we strive to do here. And I think in order to do that, so I did about a 3-hour training with a small group of agents yesterday, was really focused on how to have better conversations, scripts, and things like that. But I always start with understanding why things are the way they are, having an idea of where they're headed, and just understanding generally some of the economics behind the market, just because I believe that you're able to have better conversations if you're better informed. You really don't need as much script practice if you just know what you're talking about, right? Like Jesse and I are avid golfers. Jesse could just talk to me about golf all day. He doesn't need a script. You know what I mean? So I think it's important for agents to understand a little bit about where we are, how we got here, why more delinquencies are happening, why short sales may be coming back into the market. So let's talk about what's changed since if you're just talking about North Texas, which we're geared towards the North Texas MLS right now, the peak median sales price in the North Texas MLS was in June of 2022 at $398,000 and change. That includes all resale and new construction. It has since dropped to exactly median price of $350,000. Okay, so there's a $48,000, maybe there's a $50,000 decrease. Okay, over since June of 2022 to present. Okay. So what other factors do you feel like are going on economically where sales or home values have clearly decreased? What other economic factors are leading to more people getting behind, more people becoming delinquent?
I mean, one, job loss.
Sure.
So you've got job loss happening. You've got maybe a fear of job loss. So they're going into maybe cash piling mode.
Right.
You've got property insurance that has increased. You've got property taxes that have increased. You've got the rising cost of electricity and energy. So just to run your house now costs, I don't have the stat in front of me, probably 30, 40% more, maybe higher than that.
Yeah.
I can tell you my electric bill, what we run in our house cost me almost what my house payment was when I first bought my house in 2008.
Yeah. That's just bananas.
Insane.
Bananas.
Insane.
So when we read the book about this particular moment in history, it's I don't want to dive too deep into the Great Recession because it'll be here for 4 hours, right? But it's interesting to always explore these things that happen in hindsight because you can look at all the different variables that led to them, right? The Great Recession was not just a function of adjustable rate mortgages. That was one very, very effective or incendiary component, but there are many things that led to the Great Recession. This is going to be an interesting moment to look back on history because I'm just realizing right now in this moment, I think I just figured out the Black Swan or one of them. And I don't think that we're talking about it enough. Cost of living has increased. That's undeniable. Everything has gone up. We deal with this on the multifamily side like crazy. I mean, we just get hammered with tax increases and insurance increases every year. 2 years ago, I think our insurance on some of our assets increased by like 80%. It was just like, is this a joke? Did we buy more properties we didn't know about? It's ridiculous. So to try and operate even a household, when you can't predict what your expenses are going to be next year, is incredibly difficult. And then you factor in other inflationary things like just normal cost of living, groceries, all that type of stuff, which has started to come down a little bit, but it still affects real people. And it hasn't actually come down. It's just slowed the pace of the increase. That's an important thing to understand about inflation. When inflation goes from 8% to 2.5%, prices are still going up. They're just going up at a slower rate, right? So costs of living has gone up quite a bit. What I think we're not talking enough about as to why we got here and where we may be going, I think one of the black swan elements that I'm just realizing around the COVID market that led us here is the fundamental flaw in the way that we appraise residential properties. And I never really thought about that until just now. We appraise residential properties based purely on comparable sales, and the most recent comparable sales are the ones that we take into the most consideration, which in a stabilized market that is based on wages and asset prices in isolation makes perfect logical sense. But when the market starts to see hyperinflation and it goes up like it went up in North Texas 20% in 1 year, and then you're basing the value off of those inflated comps, now it creates a vortex of price increases that are justified, and appraisals basically are just justified on unfounded other appraisals that are also not based on how much people make and can actually afford. And so now you have a whole bunch of mortgages that were signed off on for appraisals that were compared to other inflated property prices. And at no point along the way did the system go, how much money do people actually make at their jobs, and can they afford to sustain this style of living, or are we going to be in trouble in a few years?
Well, it's the same thing that happened right before the 2008 crash, right? Is what you're mentioning, and correct me if I'm wrong if I didn't understand it all the way, is that you would have to have the market always going up in order for one, the banks to win, the homeowners to win, and then wage growth would have to go up with it in order for buyers to continue affording the increase in pricing. So eventually what ends up happening is every single time we have to get knocked back down a peg or three in order for this cycle to reset. This one just took longer because of maybe all the government help. There was, look, politicians don't want this to happen because they, that it's going to, impact their campaign in a negative way. Maybe they don't win re-election. And so we always try to kick the can down the road, hoping that, it never, it never comes due.
And that's sort of what we've done. So to not go down a rabbit hole, try to provide some clarity on what I'm saying. There are essentially two things that a mortgage company will look at when approving or denying a loan at a base level, right? One, can you afford to make the payments? And so that's where you underwrite the buyer approval. If you even look at the 1-to-4 family contract, you've got buyer approval, and that's what you've got your approval timeline for. And then you have property approval, right? And so the first component is, can this buyer afford the mortgage payments? And then our stop down is, if for whatever reason the buyer cannot afford these mortgage payments in the future, are we approving a loan at a price that we believe that if we have to take this asset back, it will be worth more than this buyer bought it for, right? Those are the two components essentially in that a underwriter is going to go through that thought process to decide whether or not we're going to approve this loan. So those two are supposed to offset one another. Meaning, if I'm a buyer and I purchase a home, then I should be vetted by my mortgage company. And that's step one, to say you can afford the payments just like a car or anything else, right? And if anything were to change in the future, we, the mortgage company, are betting on the fact that we've done an appraisal and this home is going to be worth as much or more in the future if we ever do have to repossess it, so that if we have to repossess it and liquidate it, we're not going to lose money. Now, the issue with that when it comes to the appraisal system is that if the appraisals that I'm using have that recency bias in them and all prices are inflated, that second stopgap goes away. Meaning, what happens in a market where homes are worth $50,000 less than they were 4 years ago? And in that case, everything is okay as long as people can continue to pay their mortgages. But what happens if people's cost of living increases to the point where they're no longer able to afford their mortgages? Well, you would depend generally on that second stop down as a lender. We'll have to foreclose on the home. Unfortunately, we will resell the home on the open market. It will be worth as much or more than you purchased it for, and everything will be okay. That's not happening. What's happening is we have buyers that were approved for loans at inflated asset prices because we only use recent comps as our biggest baseline, not actual affordability. And that's what we determine price based off of. Well, what if all those comps are $50,000 overpriced? And then what if this is another component that we're not talking about. What if that buyer was so anxious to get that house that they came out of pocket an extra whatever to close the gap between a short appraisal and the actual sales price of the home? Now that buyer whose cost of living has increased doesn't have that nest egg anymore, and they have an asset that's worth 12.5%. That's about 400 to 350, about 12.5% less than it was when they bought it 3 years ago.
Which is what we're seeing from the COVID market.
This is a big problem. Right. And I think the black swan that we're identifying is like, I don't think we appraise houses the right way.
Well, that's a whole different show. Right.
We could dig into that later.
That's a whole different show. And that's changing the way, the lending and the buying, really the process works. And so now as an agent, Brian, if you're hearing this and there's part of this is like, man, am I even going to make this?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to make it out alive of this, or do I need to start updating my resume? And something to kind of think about. And this is where I mean, you dove into the business starting in 2011 or 2012?
Late 2011.
Yeah. And technically we had bottomed out. We were kind of on our way, pulled ourselves out of that Great Recession.
Correct.
You still had that kind of hangover of people that were still delinquent. We still had foreclosures on the market. Your investor market was really starting to pick up during that time, which is, I think you sold 38 or something, 36, 37, 38 houses.
And a lot of them were to investors in the first year.
In your first year. But, you start looking at skate to where the puck is going, because I know right now you got the women's U.S. hockey team on, so we'll make it a little bit of that.
Still down 1-0.
At this moment, they're down 1-0 to Canada, but this is not an 08 collapse.
No,
right? That was fear. That was financially driven. That was kind of poor, bad loans given out, and we're still. This is where we get hung up on, and we try to look for the positive side, is that we're still at historically low delinquency rates.
Right, because man, I know that I try not to go down rabbit holes, but it's important to understand why we are in different places, right? One of the biggest differences between this and the financial crisis was that during the COVID years, there was so little inventory on the market that we didn't have like 9 million people didn't go out and buy a home that now is worth, 12.5% less. There was still relatively low inventory on the market because people wanted to refinance and stay. People didn't want to compete against other buyers and have to come $100,000 out of pocket or whatever it was. Like, all we talked about during the COVID market was how little inventory there was on the market, right? And so that's actually been a decent saving grace now, because a lot of the delinquency is coming from homes that were bought just a few years ago. But that was when inventory was really low. And so now it's not like we have everybody in America that went and bought a home that is now, that is now going into delinquency. That's a big difference between the COVID market and, let's say, the ninja loan era, where everybody was going and trying to buy 10 houses at once and didn't have to provide any paperwork or anything, right?
Yep. By the way, ninja loan is no income, no job, no assets.
The fact that we even have an anagram for basically saying, I don't have any money, give me a house, shows you what our mindset was back leading up to the great financial crisis.
Look, a lot of this is greed. Look, a lot of this was greed driven by the industry.
Sure.
Everyone was making money before the 08 crash.
Right.
So that's greed driven. It's the same thing of we kind of look at even the COVID, it was cheap money.
Yes.
That's greed. Like, and whether it's right or wrong, we're not talking about that. It's consumers and everyone will take advantage of it. They'll find ways to take advantage of the system.
Absolutely.
And when we look at the 08 collapse, we were seeing a 10+% delinquency rate.
Yeah.
We're nowhere near that. No. But you have to start just like with your, like if you do, any type of physical or health checkups, regularly, you want to look at where the stats are. And we start to look at, all right, we have rising 60 and 90 day late payments. And what that usually means is that it's the earliest signals of pre-foreclosures happening.
Right.
There's going to be loan modifications. So, again, the lenders don't want to take it to foreclosure. So they're going to offer loan modifications. Now, you as agents need to understand that when we were seeing a lot of loan modifications during the '08 crash is that the stat was somewhere between, I think, 60 to 75% of homeowners that went through a loan modification still ended up in foreclosure status just because what they were doing is they were tacking that the delinquent's debt onto the backside of the loan. And a lot of times when they got out of loan modification status, their payments were up even higher.
Yeah.
And they couldn't afford the payment then. They couldn't afford a higher payment at that time.
Exactly.
And so then that led to short sale opportunities. And so really to understand, like, how do you see this as one, an opportunity to help more homeowners? And two, how do you fill up your pipeline of business? Because short sales, again, that means that you have a homeowner going through a crisis, which is not great. But you as a real estate business owner say, all right, how can I help them? Yep. How can I help my business? And two, what does it mean for the long term? Is that distressed homeowners don't usually list immediately. Right. So you can go call a pre-foreclosure list, and the majority of the feedback is like, no, that's wrong. Yeah. I'm not in foreclosure. I'm like, that's interesting because you're on the list.
Yeah.
I already worked that out with the bank. And then you'll find out in the next 2 to 3 months that they then got foreclosed on.
Right.
Because there was this false hope that the bank was actually trying to work it out with them when they really don't.
Right.
But homeowners fall behind first. They don't list first, for the most part.
Yep.
And they will exhaust all of their money and lose everything else before typically their house. And so that we have to understand the psychological part of this. And then how do you then help set yourself up for not just frustrating yourself, but how do you set yourself up to help, best serve that clientele?
Yeah. So let's talk direct action steps. First is, one, in your primary business, nothing is ever going to change. You need to have your database, your A's, your B's, your C's people, and you need to be doing business with them. If you're not picking up the phone every day and already talking to people that know, like, and trust you and generating that referral business, do that before you're doing anything else. The thing to know about what is happening in the marketplace is also important because it should be a relevant part of the conversation that you have with your seller clients around how to price homes in this market. Okay. 3 years ago, it was easy to price a home pretty much anywhere, and it was just about guaranteed to sell. Now, the other thing that you can check this out, Jesse, is days on market, median days on market in the Netris trends section as of yesterday have peaked at 58 days on market median, up from a trough of 3 in 2021. So that is a 20-fold increase essentially in days on market, right? What we are seeing is that homes that are priced accurately and that show well are still selling. Nick and I are boots on the ground every single day in this business from a sales and coaching perspective. And I can tell you with 100% confidence that if a home shows well and it is priced accurately, it is going to sell right now. What you need to be aware of is that as delinquencies rise, as short sales come into the marketplace, as motivated sellers come into the marketplace, your seller clients who may not be underwater, and that's going to be the majority of people still, they may need to understand that they need to be realistic about pricing because the competition may be more motivated than them. You as an agent, your job is to set proper expectations. 50, did it change? Do average. Maybe I was wrong on the median and it's average. Average of 72. So up from if you go back to the max or whatever, 2021 was the trough. I think it went down to like almost nothing on the median scale. Are you doing all property types, just residential and then resale and new? Oh, do all construction types. It's important because we're still competing against new construction. Yeah, so we had a trough of very, very, very low in 2020. There was 7, 6. So 6 in May of 2021. We're up to 58 now. Median days on market. Almost at 20. It's almost like it's like 10-fold increase, right? So anyway, one, you're not going to pivot and become a short sale specialist right now. It's important to understand that there are motivated sellers in the marketplace that you may be competing against. And so setting correct seller expectations is going to be how you succeed. It's important that you understand that every experience that you give one of your clients should set you up for success for the future in this business. Every single client has an opportunity to become a raving fan, becoming a referral source, to setting you up for a business where people are coming to you for the rest of your career. And the way to do that is to make sure that you under-promise and over-deliver at every step. Being very realistic around pricing right now is pertinent. Now, the other action step is there are going to be short sale opportunities in the marketplace. You may not even be looking for them, and they will likely come to you if you're lead generating enough. Don't be an agent that has to pass on those opportunities because you're not educated. So one, make sure you're getting educated. That's why we're going to be creating more opportunities in our group to become educated. And two, don't start doing mailers. Don't start spending money. But you can be creating educational content. You can be making this part of your newsletter. This can be part of what you're doing on social media. People do not want to start cold calling realtors and saying, I might be in a bind. Can you come help me? They want a safe and discreet environment where they can talk to a professional around how they can navigate a very difficult situation. If you make yourself a valuable resource by creating content around that, then you're going to have a much easier time having those conversations with homeowners who may be very reluctant to share some of those things.
Well, and this is getting back to the normalcy of the market. We've exhausted COVID money. We've exhausted any type of loan forbearance or foreclosure forbearance. So we are now in that reset cycle. And this for the foreseeable future, again, if we go back to even what the foreclosure agent was telling me, that she had seen more BPO, broker price opinion requests in December and January than she's seen in almost 20 years, 18 years. That if that's going to be any indicator of what we're going to see in the coming markets, it's just be prepared so that if and when that you have a potential client, a referral, someone in your sphere as reaches out, they're coming to you, and then you're able to either one, give them expert advice right then and there, or the right questions to be asking. And that is, again, something as we go through our short sale training that we have coming up here in the coming weeks, that we're going to break that down. And then ultimately, if you don't feel comfortable working with someone like that, maybe there's a lot of pressure on that. Maybe you don't want to set yourself up for failure and ultimately have someone who's going to lose their house at the end of the day. Then start finding your referral partners whom you can refer it out to, get a referral fee on it, and have them work it. Because that was a lot of the business that I was working in 2008, 9, and 10 is that we had built up a great reputation of working with short sale clients. We had built up, we had a complete process going on, and we would have agents send us the referral. We'd paid 25% to them at the time. And, the success rate, while it's high, you still have to be okay and understand that there's going to be anywhere from 25 to 30% that will still go to foreclosure. And it could be that the banks weren't budging. It could be that maybe your seller wasn't in as distressed as they made it seem like, and the bank's like, no, you actually can pay us. Yeah. You're the hardship that you're trying to choose is not an actual hardship that we feel that we're going to let you out of this obligation.
100%. And I want to bring us back on just to one point really quickly is, do not let this be a thing that slows your business down. I know that we have to talk about these things because we do none of our listeners we're doing any justice to by not talking about what's going on in the marketplace, right? Also, a underlying just truth of the marketplace is there is always enough business out there for you to hit your goals. Do not let this be one of those things that stops you from your forward momentum, that stops you from getting up every day with energy to go out and do the daily activities to grow your business. The human being in me that you guys have known for decades and love wants everyone to succeed. And I really, truly do. The competitor in me wants everyone else to get up every day thinking that this is too hard. That is just the God's honest truth. If there is a limited amount of market share available, I want everybody else to think that this is going to be too hard. so that I have more market share available to me, right? I want all of my people to succeed, the genuine human being in me, but just understand that if you're feeling like this seems like doom and gloom, it's not, but also understand there are a lot of agents out there that got into the business just a few years ago that were experiencing a moment in time where it felt very easy to get a lot of deals done. And now those same agents are going, this is not what I feel like I signed up for. This seems really difficult. And that the market share that they would have absorbed is now going to become available again to you. So there are deals out there to be done. If you stick to your basic lead generation activities every single day, your business truly doesn't have to skip a beat. You've just got to stay mentally engaged and not let these things affect you. All of these things are just data points. They only create the reality you allow them to create. And don't let this be something that slows you down, is what I'm saying.
So last to wrap this up is, again, what we're seeing is an increase in delinquencies. We're seeing an ultra high since the highest it's been since 2021. FHA delinquencies at 11.52%. Typically, what we start to see in this cycle is that you'll start to have homeowners reaching out that either they're already behind, they're soon to fall behind, and they're coming to you for answers, solutions. And the majority of the time, they want to stay in the house. And so just be prepared to be able to answer those or get them connected with the right agent that can do it. We have great people within the Good Home team that can do it, as well as we will have some trainings coming up here in the not so distant future. That one of these solutions may be, once we finalize this, is that we have a third-party negotiator that you can bring on, and they get paid at closing. And they usually negotiate, from what I recall in the past, they usually negotiate with the bank their fee to be involved in that. So, excellent. Brian, tell us a little bit more what we can expect out of this group, out of the meetups and the future trainings, everything that we're continuing to add and build within the DFW Realtor community.
And I appreciate that. And I hope if you haven't joined already, just search on Facebook, DFW Realtors. It's the group that'll come up. What we've really committed to doing with this group is we love doing the shows. We've loved doing the podcast for years because we get to talk about what is happening in the market right now and how you can use it to become a better agent. And like I've said before, we are boots on the ground. So everything that Nick and I have the pleasure of talking about has come from our experience, our lived experience of building two of the most successful sales organizations in the state of Texas. We have done this for years and thousands of transactions. And whatever is the coup de jour, I don't even know if that's the right word, right? Whatever's going on in the market right now, we're having to react to it in our own businesses in real time. And so everything we do training wise is going to be based on what is working right now. We would not have done short sale training 3 years ago. It wouldn't have made any sense. And if we invited it to you guys, you wouldn't have come. And it would have been obvious that we're only doing it for some ulterior motive that benefits us, right? Right now, agents need to know these types of things. We get genuine fulfillment and joy from bringing this type of value and information to other professionals because we've been there. We've both been young people and young professionals in this business that were trying to advance, trying to build better businesses, trying to learn. And now we have the pleasure of having an influence where we can bring a lot of what we've learned to the group. So whether it's our short sale training coming up or any of the trainings or webinars or meetups or value propositions that we do in the future, understand that we get as much out of it as you guys are going to get out of it because we're boots on the ground as well. And we're still trying to learn and grow as well. So we promise to always bring highly relevant content to the group.
So here's what you can look forward to. In the not so distant future, you'll see a weekly newsletter that is coming out. That's going to break down and recap the podcast. That's going to go over any upcoming events that we have going on. Maybe any webinars. We have something coming out that we're going to be excited to launch and release, which is called the Residual Agent. It's about being able to add residual income in your business. And guess what? It doesn't take any extra work. It's already what you're doing currently in your business, and it's going to help out your clients. Yep. And so just be on the lookout. The Residual Agent. That way you always have some income coming in every single month, even if you have maybe a no closing month. Maybe you've got no leases going through. You can be on the lookout for, maybe you've seen some emails or text messages. You're going to start seeing that where we're helping promote people coming into our real estate community Facebook group so that we can provide better posts, right? More collaboration, more sharing, more networking. And the more that we do it, I've already had people reaching out that want to be guests or they want to come in and talk to our real estate agent community. And these are already, just in the short time of us taking over the DFW Realtor Group, there's some power names that have already reached out. And so what we're doing is being highly selective of who we bring in, maybe what they're pitching, because we don't, the last thing we want to do is make this a spam and pitch fest. You've probably already seen it. If more than likely, if you're listening to this, I probably deleted, or Brian's probably deleted one of your posts because it's too much self-promotion, too much spam. It doesn't come from collaboration.
No personal offense on those guys. We're just trying to really stick to the rules that we've designed intentionally for the group.
Absolutely. And some of these are my friends that I've deleted their post on. So again, thank you for tuning into episode 3. Be on the lookout for our next one, our next episode. We release this typically every Thursday is when they come out. And then tag an agent, invite an agent to the group. And then once we get this up and running, I'm sure there'll be a place to leave comments and reviews.
Yes, sir. Episode 3, another one in the books. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.
DFW.